Hi, and welcome Beyond the Racing Line, the Formula One podcast by fans, for fans. It's been a really special run of races, and we've just enjoyed a daytime race here in Australia at the wonderful Japan Suzuka racetrack. Tristan, how was the daytime?
Oh, it's good, wasn't it? Good morning, evening, whatever time you're listening from.
Well, this isn't live, so
No, true,
that could apply at any time.
Well, I was thinking about
really.
you right now, because it can, but yeah, it's 5 o'clock here.
Well, it's 5 o'clock for a race finish.
Which is great. So we've had the afternoon, sun's out, beautiful. Neither of us are tired.
That's right.
No coffee needed today.
That's right.
Yeah, life's good, isn't it?
Yeah, and it's sunny too. That makes a big
sunny.
difference.
It's like 25 degrees
Importantly,
outside.
sunny here and at the racetrack.
Beautiful.
We've got all the goodies coming your way. However, we're not going to have a fan frenzy this week. Well, not in our traditional time slot. We might try and look at doing something else.
Late week one.
Yeah, but all the goodies coming your way from what feels like a really special run of races. We talked about it last week. We've seen some really special races, and I think this one is a really special racetrack, and we haven't seen the best of it for a little while because of COVID, and then we had the wet race that sort of never dried last year. Or no, that was just a wet race there. And so, it was nice to see it in full flight this time round and to see all the fans out enjoying. Have you got a race ranking for me?
Race ranking? Geez, very fresh for a race ranking, isn't
it?
It
is.
is.
Usually we've got time to
really consider it. I'm happy to give it a 7.5 today.
7.5?
7.5, yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, just straight off the bat.
There was plenty happening, nothing at the front whatsoever.
No, except for an absolute just...
There was plenty happening. Yeah, look, I'm happy with
of the field.
I'm happy with a 7.
There's plenty going on, up and down the field, different strategies, 2 stops, 3 stops, different order of tyres as well.
Absolutely.
Some high deg, some low deg, good management, a lot of action.
Yep.
Yeah, that was good.
No, it's a
little bit of controversy at the end.
A little bit,
not a huge amount, but a little bit.
So no, plenty to wrap out T3 on. Yeah, I'm happy with a 7. I think it's a 7.
Yep.
Very solid, and I'd be happy to watch that race again. Before we get into everything else, though, we do have an opening question. This one's actually from Steve from New Zealand. It's interesting. I think we're getting a little bit of traction from New Zealand with the Lawson setup. So Steve wants to know, and this is interesting for him because they're probably in an even dodgier situation for Formula One than what we are.
Yep.
But they want to know, what's the ultimate time for you to be watching a Formula One race?
Yeah, right. Oh, it's a good, appropriate question for this week,
isn't
it?
Well, it fits in really nicely. Yep. Yeah. And so for them, I think, what are they? Are they 2 hours before us or
Could not
4
tell
hours
you.
before us?
Absolutely no idea.
So they might have been looking at like a midday race, maybe slightly before midday.
Yep.
We managed to watch it at 3 p.m.
3 o'clock, yep.
And it's... For your information, for listeners' information, I like to give that out.
Yep.
It's 5:35, so 2.5 hours after race start on a Sunday for us.
It's good.
It was interesting. It was a fun time to watch.
It was a good
Formula
time.
One. We don't often get to watch Formula One together. You came over and watched the race with me, which was
nice.
Yeah, different.
Nice.
It was very different. We don't usually do that. It's usually a very lonely existence being a Formula One follower in Australia. What's your ultimate time?
A good time. I really like now. Like, now's a good time. But then I was saying to you yesterday, we're lucky enough to have qualifying at a similar time.
4 o'clock start.
But I felt like I had to plan my day around it. So, I had to get up early, do my things I wanted to get done, occupy the little man, and made sure his hour screen time was sort of happening while quali was on.
Yep.
So that was it was just more of a slight inconvenience more than anything. So I think, you were saying we've got an American race that's coming up, it'll be a 5 p.m. start for us. I think that'd be good. But I really do like now. Like, now's a good time. Like, to finish it and be able to have tea and then relax into the evening. Like, even while we're talking now, I'm sort of watching a little bit of the post-show.
Yep.
I'm very keen to see what George has to say.
Yep.
But I think now is a good time because you can finish the day and then you've got hours to reflect on.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm enjoying this instant reaction from us. However, I'm with you. Stewing, it's nice to stew on some of the information and be able to... A lot comes out in the hours after the race.
Yeah, just the next couple of hours.
Just
with
those little
team
tidbits and lots of stuff. Yep.
News feed, all that kind of stuff.
For me, I think my ideal watching time would be after dinner. So I'm looking for an 8 p.m. start for a race. I think that's my ideal. After dinner, that gives us a race that finishes about 10 you absorb all the information afterwards. You're in bed by 11:30, 12 o'clock and happy days. But for the fact that we can record now, I don't mind. I don't mind what it is. So, yeah, it's an interesting one. For me, I think today was slightly too early with kids in the house.
Yes, fair.
They were pretty good.
They were very good. I thought they were very well.
But I was, if it had have hit the fan, I would have been annoyed. But yeah, so anyway, we might get some bangs on the shed.
Yep.
I'm
Special
sorry,
effects.
on the Beyond the Racing Line headquarters. But yeah, good question. Thanks, Steve. And don't forget, you can send them in via audio. However, I'm a little bit harder to find now, Tristan.
You are, because you've had a social media meltdown.
Over the last 6 weeks, I've done two of the most stressful things that can happen in your life.
Yep.
The first one was we moved house.
Yep.
And we got through it okay. It was a bit hectic, but we got through it okay.
Yep.
And then this week I was hacked. My social media was hacked. And I was onto it straight away. So I was trying to counter the hackers. And then what ended up happening was my social media got shut down completely. And then it went through a review pretty much instantly, thanks to the hackers. And then the review was knocked back. Whatever they did, I don't know what they tried to post.
That's why they're hackers. That's why they're hackers.
Whatever they did, forced Facebook to shut it down completely. And apparently, it is completely unavoidable. I can't get my old social media back.
Yeah, right.
So those people who might have been trying to contact me, you might have noticed that my name had disappeared.
Yes.
I am back on the socials now, but yeah, it's been a little bit of a stressful situation, but so far so good. It's only been this part of my life that's been hacked.
That's good.
We went and did all the changing of everything and whatnot, but so anyway. Send your messages into the page.
Maybe just the page group. It'd be the best way to go.
It's probably the best way to do it. Some people do send me in private messages, but send it into the page. It's going to be the best spot to go and do that. I'm not currently an admin of that page at the moment, actually. So
I'll add you.
But anyway, so that's where we're at. But certainly send through your opening questions. Weekend review, race review. It was great being back at Suzuka in full flight, wasn't it?
Wasn't it? Awesome. Fabulous track, fabulous environment, best fans of the world. Love all of it.
We're going to do that today.
Yeah, I know.
We're going to have that discussion today.
I'm ready to go.
Top 5.
Top 5 bands.
Yep. It is. It is just. It's a stunning spot, and even my mum had sent through a message mid-race saying, "Oh, I might go to Japan next year to watch this. I've always wanted to go to Japan, and then this Grand Prix looks pretty awesome."
It does.
The popularity of Formula One gets forgotten in Japan. It was only a few years ago that there was a ballot. You had to go on a ballot to get tickets. And things are big when you got to go on a ballot to get tickets. And it's not quite at that stage at the moment, but it was a sellout, 220,000 people there today.
Yep.
It was a huge event, and like you say, the track is just magnificent. It's got all the different sections that you want to see in a racetrack, and overtaking was possible. It wasn't possible with Max involved, but for everyone else, it certainly was possible for this race.
Yep.
Close enough, but it wasn't sort of crazy easy. Would you like to see a DRS on the back straight?
Well, we talked about this, didn't we? I would, and I think it has a place. So, coming out of Spoon, you would want to... Where would you have your activation point? It would be...
Straight out of Spoon. Activation point would be
activation point would be prior to Spoon. So you'd have to come out of the hairpin. Would you want it into the hairpin? I need to think about this.
Coming out. I think coming
out of the hairpin. You probably see coming into the hairpin after the second Degner might give you a little bit more action, because you could dive bomb a little bit closer getting to the hairpin. But then we saw that
out with the exit.
It will throw you out with the exit, but that'll come back to you later on if you get that actual opening of DRS straight out of Spoon. So maybe that could cause a little bit of havoc. But I mean, with your detection zone, you probably could have it out of the hairpin. Maybe detection zone is, prior to entering Spoon, then you go through Spoon, and then just coming out of Spoon corner, you open your DRS. 3/4 of the way down, I mean, that's straight down into 130R is long enough that at least 3/4 of the way down, you could close it. Gives you time to restabilize the car before you go into 130R. I know it's flat these days, but I still would be really erring on the side of caution to have DRS going through 130R.
And what that does is it puts you right in the back back of
it gives
the car in front of you.
Yeah.
It makes the last chicane and overtaking
I was going to say,
opportunity.
it makes it there too, and then if not, then you're close enough into the chicane, then you're close enough out of the chicane again, which then the chicane is that immediate follow-up detection zone. So I think a little bit more investigation, and it definitely has it, but I really don't think you could have DRS through 130R.
Yeah.
There's so much safety, like barrier-wise. The run-off's not enormous. And at that speed, with no downforce on the back of that car,
it'd be an interesting one, that's for sure.
You'd really need to consider it.
Qualifying, sort of teams were a little more spread out this time.
Yeah, it was. The whole field was.
There was
spread
a real Red Bull out in front. Max's Red Bull out in front, and McLaren's were a clear second, and then we sort of saw. Generally, there was a bit of a team after team from that situation on.
Yep.
And it was looking fairly close. Max certainly looked like he had it in hand.
Yep.
But then he pulled out that last spectacular lap. I mean, he didn't need that lap. No. The one before it was well and truly good enough. But then, he managed to go and put half a second on the field. And
doesn't need half the things that he does.
That was incredible. Yeah. So it was a good qualifying. But it certainly cast a little bit of worry for the race in terms of where everyone's at for the race and being able to chase down Max. Getting into the race, we had a start that saw both McLarens jump off the line really quickly, but Max still managed to hold into the first corner, and from there, that was about the last time anyone saw Max.
Was it?
Drove away into the distance. Did it easy, didn't have to put pressure on his tyres, and still managed to win by 17 seconds. 19 in the end, actually.
50-second gap to fifth.
It's a pretty impressive gap.
Is there any? There's no words to even describe it anymore, is it?
The thing that is really, really like, there's all sorts of words you can use to describe the way Max is going, and there's all sorts of comparisons you can make. One comparison you can't make is his teammate at the moment.
Oh.
So we're at the absolute ends of the spectrum with both of these drivers.
Yes.
One is on top of absolutely everything. He had an off weekend.
Yep.
Maybe that could throw him. No way, Jose. Max is back into it, and he's just as determined as ever. His interview before the race was, what would you say for those people who are worried you're going to go out into the lead and win by 30 seconds? He goes, that's my exact aim, and I hope that's going to happen. And absolutely, that has to be the answer. Perez, on the other hand, is not qualifying any good. He's been 7/10 off on every lap of practice of qualifying to Max. And then he goes and has one of the biggest stinkers of all time.
Shocking weekend. And I've seen just a couple of social media comments immediately post-race, like, Checo's had a bad weekend. Everything that Checo did this weekend was horrible.
And it was a lot on him.
And it was a scrappy race too. He had little periods he was trying to make his way through the field. He certainly did it way too quick. And that collision with Magnussen was rookie-like. Even coming out of the pit lane with that detection zone.
I think he was found to be okay. I think it was the entry to pit lane in the end.
It was just horrid. It was messy. It was sloppy. It was poor racing. It was not a smooth, cool, calm, calculated race that he needed, because that car will take him there anyway.
Step across the other side of the garage and you see the complete opposite.
Yeah.
Everything
in
Max
every
touched
way
turned to gold.
Yep.
And it was a magnificent performance from Max.
Yep.
I don't know. I mean, how much pressure is Red Bull? I mean, Red Bull have just signed on Yuki and Dan into the AlphaTauri.
Yep, Lawson's the reserve.
Lawson's going to be the reserve.
Which we talked last week, so I'm glad that they came through this week.
If Perez continues to drive the way he's driving, does Perez make it to next year?
Oh, at this rate, probably not, to be honest. I was calling for it about a month ago.
They're perfectly set up to make that swap.
Yep.
I mean, it would look really strange, wouldn't it, to do it now?
Lawson has literally just outraced Tsunoda.
They're perfectly set up to make that swap if it needs to happen, and so I guess in a way, then it'll be okay if that happens. But yeah, it's not looking good for Perez at the moment.
So he's dropped 8 points to Lewis today. So the gap, this is sort of echoing the comments of what Marco had a few weeks ago, that as long as he's second in the championship, he's okay. So he dropped 8 points today to Lewis. He's very, very lucky that Alonso had a little bit of an off day as well today. Aston had probably a race of two halves. Start was poor, end was okay. But if you look at that now, he's 33 points adrift of Lewis. So he's still within striking distance. Like a DNF, and then, you go to Brazil. I know Max
33
is on top
points
of the
ahead.
game.
33 points
ahead
of Lewis.
So that's it. So, if we've got, 5 to go, and Lewis just keeps chipping away, it's going to be close at the end. It really is going to be close. And then you've got Alonso there. I mean, you could probably almost... Next week's going to have to be a podium, you would think, for Fernando to actually say that he is going to get Perez. So I guess a little bit of pressure on there for Fernando in order to stay in that hunt. But then, Alonso's in trouble at the moment as well now. Pressure coming from Sainz and Leclerc as well. Norris won't catch him, but he's only, it's only 24 points adrift to Sainz and then another 15 further back to Leclerc. So that's getting close. So a little bit of pressure in terms of just driver standings as to who's going to finish where.
Yeah, absolutely. It'll be a real watch space for Perez at the moment.
I think so.
He desperately needs the reset of some sort.
Yep.
It sort of felt like maybe he got himself back on track a few times and then he sort of dropped off. And it's just it was a horror for him.
It was.
Over to the McLarens, we saw a great start and a great attack. Norris managed to get the lead, and then he was undercut by his teammate at the first pit stop. And then they were asked to swap positions later on through the race, but it was a really strong showing from McLaren overall. We can talk about strategy, we can talk about whether they should have done the swap and all those sorts of things. It annoyed us, but it was probably the right decision. He ended up a long way down the road. But the McLaren in general is just a fast machine, isn't it?
So if you look at where they started the season opening, 17th and 20th respectively in round 1.
And you can see that in the points because they haven't picked up those points early on. But now they're coming home.
A 2-3 in Suzuka. Rightfully we were calling for their heads at the start of the year.
Yeah, which, absolutely.
Results reflect
They were calling for their own heads at the start of the year.
Absolutely they were. So then that's really, really good. But if you look at the flip side of that, Lando's on 115. Piastri's made his way into 9th now in the championship. So he's on 57 points. So he's outdone Stroll, Gasly, Ocon, Albon, Hulk, Bottas, Zhou, Tsunoda, Magnussen, Lawson, Sargent, De Vries, and Ricciardo.
Yep.
That's a fantastic showing to this point in
time. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Norris, really solid race.
Really good race. Starting to be just the way that he goes about his weekends now, isn't it? Just you see the build every single session. It's not as extreme as what Max is doing, but if you don't have Max in the championship, Norris is the form driver of the field
absolutely.
Right now, isn't he?
And was out qualified by Oscar this time round. And we started to see that pressure start to build up on Norris. However, he's got the race pace. And when I say race pace, it's not he's a faster racer. He manages those tyres really, really well. If there's a knock on Oscar at the moment, and there's very few knocks on Oscar at the moment, the way he's going, he needs to learn to manage those tyres through these high degradation races.
Yep.
And that's fine. And that's Oscar has come out and said, look, I can't learn how to be better at it until I race a few. And that's where he's at.
Yeah, and I loved his honesty as well.
Absolutely. If there's one thing that Oscar is, it's full honesty. The other thing that I'm really loving about Oscar is the way he builds his race weekends. So listening to the team speak, they talked about the fact that he's a fair way off in the first practice and a fair way off in the second. He started slowly building it, but come qualifying, and it's even through qualifying, you see him building those laps. And it's a deliberate thing. It's the way that Oscar tackles a weekend. At the moment, while he's hasn't got the experience at all these race tracks, he wants to build those race weekends. So he doesn't want to lose track time by pushing the limits, sitting on the curbs. He wants to build them up, and by the time he hits qualifying, he feels like he's where his confidence needs to be, or hopes he's where it needs to be. And we saw that laid out beautifully this weekend. However, race pace was slightly lacking just because of that lack of experience in managing the tyres through the race. But my God, we've got a racer on our hands here, haven't we?
Absolutely, we do.
It's incredible. Can't wait for his personality to come out. There's more personality there than what he's showing. But yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing that personality come out a little bit more.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
But you know what? It's the perfect way to go. We don't need him creating headlines on other things other than he's driving at this point in his career.
And that's a smart driver there, just to keep his head down and do what he needs to do, and just be open and honest with himself, and just work your way into it. Especially the age that these guys come into the sport.
Yep. Leclerc managed to come home in fourth. It was a fairly solid drive.
Well, that was the question last week, wasn't it? What is this week going to look like with the Ferraris? And both, I thought, held in really good stead right across the whole weekend. Practice sessions were solid. Q3 probably dropped off a little bit. Qualifying was still very, very good, though. And then they just came home. Sainz unlucky not to get Lewis right at the end. So almost pipped him for fifth. So, to still come home fourth and sixth is a really, really good showing for Ferrari, and it just shows their trajectory is on the up.
Absolutely.
So I'd be interested to see how they go in Qatar in a couple of weeks' time.
One of the questions on people's lips coming into this race was, are the way that we're checking these regulations going to change the way Red Bull
Well, that was the big question with the floor.
That was the big question. And it's an absolute categorical, absolutely not.
No.
However, Perez, maybe. So maybe they've got different flaws.
Maybe.
But the other question was, well, and has it also helped Ferrari come back into the game? And I think Ferrari's just got that really good, like you say, a good solid trajectory. They've seemed to understand the car a whole lot better, and now they can start really developing it. Sainz, race winner last time out, wasn't quite as fast this time around, but like you say, he was sort of chasing down Hamilton towards the end. We were sort of cheering him on because we wanted to see that action, but it was solid enough and another good haul of points for Sainz.
Absolutely.
Not much more to talk about.
Not really.
Him, which is probably a positive for Ferrari at the moment.
He looks in really good stead, and his racecraft looks to be much more settled in these past, probably 2-3 weeks. And look, he really got punchy towards the end of the lap too. After
our last episode, we'd sort of mentioned the fact that is there a team leader? Is there a 1 and a 2? And that conversation really started throughout the week about the fact that Carlos Sainz could be the leader of this team.
Yep.
But he's certainly a very strong equal, if not.
It's probably his next step, isn't it? Is where he needs to go before he starts actually looking at team leading. But maybe he doesn't need to lead the team. I don't know that every Formula 1 driver needs to be a team leader.
Absolutely not. And I don't think that necessarily Ferrari need a team leader. No. You just control yourself.
I think Fred Vasseur will need to be the man and just let your drivers drive.
Yep. Lewis in fifth was dirty. Mercedes were having a fairly solid race. They opted for different strategies between Russell and Hamilton.
Yep.
Russell's going for the one stop, Hamilton going for a multiple stop.
Yep.
Didn't quite come off for Russell.
No.
We did see a bit of spice between Russell and Hamilton on the track, though, because all of a sudden they knew they were going to be coming together towards the end of the race. Yeah. So they were pretty punchy throughout the race.
That early phase was really, really hard for it, and I liked it. I didn't mind that. You were a little bit suspicious on the way the stewards called that move with Hamilton and Russell. Investigation needed.
Yeah, so there was a forcing off of the track. If it was a different team, there's definitely a penalty given out. The fact that they're on the same team, I don't think should come into the conversation. I mean, it's not like you're sending different drivers up for that through a race like that. I think it's a fairly straightforward. No, you forced him off the track. Yep. But anyway, wasn't the case. And then they were asked to swap around in the closing stages of the race because Sainz was closing in on them really quickly.
Yep.
We were both of the thought that you know what, let's keep them in this order.
Oh, I thought so. Yeah.
And use that DRS because Russell's tyres had gone right off by that stage. Did they get the call right in the end?
No, I don't think they did. I think they're lucky not to have been caught by Sainz, given another 2 laps, and he absolutely would have had Lewis as well. I don't know that would have been the case anyway, because Lewis certainly has the racecraft to stick behind and be a bit of a rear gunner for George.
Even Sainz had made the comment on the radio, they're using my trick against me, which I love that comment.
Yeah, he could see that coming.
But he could see that it was quite difficult, and so for me, I think they had it. The problem is, if he had been able to pick one off, he definitely would have got the second one, and so it still would have been that risk, I guess. But it was a close call. But I'm with you. I think they might have been better off with a bit of racecraft. Lewis sort of really applying the pressure on the team to swap them around.
Yes,
I thought, it was interesting. Russell won't forget that one anytime soon. I
don't mind Russell's punchy calls. I do think sometimes he does need to trust in the team that they know what they're doing too. Yeah, and they are 8-time constructor champions.
Would that comment have come through from him about no, we're going to do it this way, or should do it this way. If Toto was at the venue, because Toto was away this weekend.
I wondered that. You mentioned that straight after, didn't you? Yeah, maybe yes, maybe no. Maybe the comment back might have come from Toto on the radio, just saying relax. So it's probably a good thing that he didn't receive that call mid-race.
Took a little bit of convincing to make him do what
the one
they
stop
needed
really
to do.
Surprised me though, knowing that it was going to be a minimum 2 and possible 3 with such a high deg circuit and taking the soft and the hard compounds into calculations with that. I was shocked that they even gambled on one.
So I quite like it because Mercedes currently aren't. They're not in a race-winning machine on pace. No. They're not even in a second-place machine at the moment. And so I don't mind that Russell in particular is trying new things and trying different things to see what they can get out of it. I mean, are you that worried if you lose this position to one Ferrari? Probably not.
Probably
having
not,
a crack at it.
Yeah.
We saw him have a crack at it last week.
Thought of one was
this
strange.
week. Yeah, it was an interesting way. Then we saw Ocon and Gasly. Oh no, sorry, Miss Fernando Alonso.
Look, not a great weekend for Aston. And I think probably up and down the pit lane too. Stroll had a nightmare qualifying, nowhere in practice,
and then a broken
DNF'd with a broken wing. So we saw just really quickly on the broadcast right at the end they were playing with the rear wing, and it looks super loose. Fernando really critical of the pit strategy and where he was placed within the field, and then
I think he wanted to do the one stop.
Yeah, and then it sort of came back a little bit later on, but it was a bit of a case of too little too late at the end. So, look, they've still got a lot of work to do. I think we've all sort of recognised that they aren't the team that they started the year with, and there is still a lot of learning to go on there with Aston. So I think they'll probably pick it up again.
The fact that they're only finishing 5 seconds ahead of Alpine when they were so much further ahead earlier in the season.
Absolutely.
It is,
a little bit of worry. I said last week they've lost the development race. I really feel that. Do you think it's in their best interest not to beat McLaren now?
No, I don't. No, I think when they're that close, you're better off picking up the position.
No, I think with the
it's a funny one.
I think with the new regs now, they're 40 points ahead of McLaren. They're probably going to get run down towards the end. So do you stop? And I could see Lawrence Stroll being someone who would think this way. Are you better off with a couple of $1 million, which he's definitely not short of, or are you better off banking the wind tunnel time?
It's probably more about the sponsors. The sponsors don't want to be run down, I guess. It's all about, those sponsor dollars.
It's certainly worth
it's an interesting question now. Yeah. Now that we've got the way the regs are, it is certainly an interesting question.
So another DNF for Stroll, does that just continue to force us to ask the question week in, week out, what are we doing here?
Stroll's DNF came when he was in a horrible position in the race.
And that's sort of it.
The first comment we had watching was, are they doing this just to save face here?
Yep.
Like, clearly he had a broken wing, so obviously not in this situation, but it is starting to get to that point where it's like, Stroll is so far from where he needs to be. They have the team almost given up on him. And it's just starting to get that way. It's becoming embarrassing, isn't it?
Absolutely it is.
If they're a serious race team, they've got to make that change.
It should have already have been made.
And it sort of feels like, at some stage someone's going to get an idea of that, but he's contracted to next year, so that's where he'll be, I guess. Ocon and Gasly.
Yeah.
They had a strange swapperoo because Gasly was 6 seconds ahead of Ocon in the race, and we haven't been able to work out what happened there.
No, because again, just a nowhere weekend for them, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was 9th and 10th, 3 points for the constructors, which I guess is useful for them, but they're sort of in no man's land anyway.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
It was an interesting sort of race, but I haven't quite got my head around what happened in that last lap to swap them around.
Certainly look at that very shortly.
Liam Lawson in 11th, nearly picked up a point. Yuki Tsunoda in 12th. Looked like Tsunoda was a long way ahead of Lawson towards the end, but I think a late pit stop meant that Lawson sort of made that Yuki dropped behind and Lawson made his way through.
Yep.
Solid again.
Really, really good, really good. So if you look at Dan and his timeline to come back, supposed to be Qatar, I honestly don't think it's going to be Qatar.
Yeah, they're talking Austin now, aren't they?
I really don't. I could almost see if Lawson continues to perform in Qatar, and then if we go to Austin, you've got to make that call. Knowing now that Dan, the driver lineup has been fully announced, do they then just park Dan and get him fully fit? Like, he knows he's there for the year. And do you get half a season out of Lawson rather than a handful of races? Like, get a real good look at him.
I think they've sort of done that anyway. But I've got a feeling that if it was a world championship on the line, or if points were absolutely critical in this situation, they would have Dan back in the car next weekend, possibly even this weekend was the message. But I think they are giving him that little bit more time to make sure that he's absolutely ready to go.
I would not be surprised to not see Dan back again for the rest of the year.
Yeah.
And just get him right. I know we've got 5 rounds to go still, or whatever.
There's absolutely no way in the world that any race driver is going to allow for that to happen.
I don't know that he'll get a say. It's a free kick in every aspect of the way that you think about it. It's a free kick for Dan to get fully fit and ready to go and prime for a full year. It's a free kick to look at Lawson for half a season. It's a look at Sonoda against a new teammate and then evaluating where he's at as well. And then looking at all three of them if you have to make a mid or early season change, which Red Bull are certainly not fearful of doing. It just, there's so much upside to just letting him continue.
Other than the fact that they want Ricciardo to become race fit, ready for next year, back in terms of where the race is at. I mean, if they're making the call on Perez, Ricciardo's at the front of that line.
Yep.
And so they want him to be absolutely ready to go at any moment. And he wasn't to that point yet. He was still learning the car and the intricacies of the car. So no, absolutely terrible call on your behalf. One of the worst I've heard for a little while, because that's all the information they want to do. They want to get Ricciardo up to date with that car.
This space. I will be shocked, and
all right.
I'll be more shocked to see Dan sooner rather than later.
What are you putting on it?
What am I putting on it?
Austin. He's backed by Austin.
Is
it a 6-pack?
I need to have a look. Yeah, absolutely. We can do that. Why not? All right. Let me have a look. Where am I looking for the schedule here and the results?
Austin. So the next one's
When's the next
Qatar, and then Austin. I'm saying he's backed by Austin.
You're saying he's backed by Austin?
Yeah, he's racing in Austin.
So
you're saying he's not backed by the end of the season.
I would... What, Vegas is second last?
No, you said the end of the season.
No, I'm just having a look. Qatar, Vegas. We have Dan in Vegas. Yeah, maybe. I don't know. If I was going to say he's back, it'd be Vegas.
Back in Austin.
You're going to say back in Austin?
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Oh, if he's either back in Austin or he's not back at all.
Yeah, no, I'm going to say no. I'm going to say he's not back.
Right, yeah.
As much as I think having him in Vegas is everything it needs to be, marketing-wise, I just, no. I don't think so.
All right. I look forward to my 6-pack.
Okay.
Anyone else you want to talk about?
No. Lots of DNFs.
It was a horror first.
DNF
it was a horror first lap for Alfa Romeo, but the show ended up in 13th. Looks better than what it actually was, because he was actually only third last.
I think they were very lucky, because he was starting right at the back of the field. The incident was lap 1, safety car right away.
Turns out he didn't actually hit anyone. He just collected someone else's parts.
Front rear wing, which is fine. Bottas had another shocker. He's hanging on for Audi days, isn't he? He really is, Valtteri. He is just waiting for Audi days to come.
Logan Sargent
had a nightmare weekend, considering he's the only driver without a contract now in the entire field. The only seat left is his. Binned it in quali, had a poor practice session, straight out in the race as well. It's timing is everything. It's not a good way to kick into your weekend.
There's a good comparison with Mick going on here, isn't it? Schumacher. Mick was known for damaging cars that they couldn't afford to be damaging.
Yeah.
And there's that situation going on there. Let's get into the All Signs 3, 2 and 1. That is awesome. Thanks to All Signs for all your signage needs. AWE Signs. Who's your 3 points going to?
My 3 points is going to Oscar.
Yes, great call. I'm going to go 3 points to Oscar. Geez, we've been
very consistent, haven't we?
Too much
Absolutely.
for my liking.
Yep.
Anyway, 2 points.
3 to Oscar. I'm going to give 2 to
2.
I'm going to give 2 to Lewis.
2 to Lewis. Why?
Yeah.
Tell me more.
Yeah, just a stronger showing and just sort of thereabouts at the end. And
just like the way he pushed
just
his teammate off the track.
Sort of,
had a little suki lala, but they weren't being swapped around.
I like the way that he raced this weekend. So it was very, very
Did
good.
you really?
Yeah, I did.
My 2 are going to Norris.
Okay.
That's just a safe.
That's predictable. Yeah.
Predictable.
Yep.
Call, isn't it?
Yep.
Yeah, Jesus, Lewis, I would not have given him points no matter what.
No, that's fair enough.
1 point.
And 1 point, geez, you know what? I'm going to give it to Lawson. Because
again,
Lawson
might win this.
I don't think I gave it to him last week, though. I think you gave it to him last week. Yeah,
yep.
I'm just going to give him the one. We got a full race comparison against Yuki and beat him.
Yep. I'm with you. My last point is going to George. I love the way he's going about his racing at the moment, trying something different. If you're going to be mid of the top 10, you may as well try something different and see what can come of it. So 1 point to George.
Yep.
But I didn't love the swapsaroo at the end, but hey, that's the way it is. We saw a little bit of Suki Lala. Lewis come back and I didn't like it, but
I was
did.
happy. Yeah, I was quite happy with it. Yeah.
Dud of the day.
Dud of the day. Ooh. Jeez. Yeah. This fresh too. See, I like thinking about this type of thing. I think you have to give it to Valtteri.
Valtteri?
Yeah, just would have to.
Why?
Just had a horror weekend and a horror showing.
Valtteri Bottas.
Yeah, yep. Just no good.
Caught up in a squeeze on the first lap.
He had. That's probably a bit harsh. Probably needs to be Perez, doesn't it?
Absolutely.
Yeah, it does.
It does.
It definitely does. Sorry. Yeah, definitely Perez.
I'm going to go with the trophy.
The trophy. No.
Cool idea.
No.
Really, really cool idea.
No.
But my God, that was underwhelming.
No, it was terrific. It's the middle of the day. Like, Singapore would have been... Look, granted, Singapore would have been a better place to
Correct.
go if it's going to light up. You do anything
but if it's going to light up, make it brighter, make it lighter.
Yeah.
I brought my daughter in to watch.
I know you did, actually.
I said, watch this. Possibly they're going to kiss the trophy and the lips is going to be recognised on the trophy and it's going to put the colours of that driver on the trophy. Yep. And then it just goes, and he's like, give me a break.
No,
terrible.
I liked it. I thought it was good. Look,
I like the idea.
I love the idea. I really, really do. And I've never had so much intrigue around a trophy ever in my life. And I don't think I ever will either.
And it's very, very Japan. Like, I like that part of it, but it was just underwhelming.
But yeah, Singapore would have been the better place for that.
Yep. You got a hero of the hour?
Well, it was going to be the trophy because I really liked it.
Well, that's okay.
I'm actually going to give
it. Wasn't a hero.
No, I'm going to give it to the Japanese fans because you asked me this question about top 5.
We're going to go to it now. Right,
top 5.
We're going to go to it now. Radio. So, where is the best crowds in Formula One? Now, this is so hard for us to answer because we don't actually get to go to all the races.
No, it's a shame. But if
what we can tell,
someone wants to give us an all-expenses-paid trip around the world to follow the
From what we can tell, there are some pretty incredible joints to be watching Formula One from.
Oh, absolutely.
Where's your...
All right.
So, 5.
5. So, fifth best fans in the world?
Yep.
All right. So, they are the Brazilian fans?
Ah, yeah.
Yeah?
Yep.
Because they have their... Well, I mean, in past, they've had Massa, they've had Senna. Obviously, they've got their adopted son, which is Lewis as well.
Yep.
But as a fan and a nation base, they would have to be 5th on the all-time list.
Yep.
Yeah, really, really powerful. And you see that with every race weekend, sort of, the past 10, 20 years you've seen in Brazil. It continues to give and give and give and give. You can tell their passion is there.
Yep.
All right, in 4th place, the Mexican fans.
Really?
Yeah, absolutely.
I do like it.
Absolutely. Party atmosphere. They've got their one man, which is Checo. That they don't have too many drivers that represent their country and their nationality. So every time one comes along, they are obviously just put up on a pedestal. And I love the atmosphere that the actual circuit brings.
Probably,
the whole carnival.
I think that stadium section really embraces that too, doesn't it?
Absolutely, it shows that off. So yeah. So
if there was a track that I could go to for the experience of a race, not necessarily for the race, but the whole experience for the race, it would be one that's right up there. Yeah, absolutely. Food and culture. Yep. What else?
3rd, Dutch fans.
Yep.
Dutch, we see that at the Red Bull Ring, we see it at Zandvoort. They're just the orange army, just out in force, and they have so much love for Max.
Yep.
So much. It's unparalleled to anyone else. It really is.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Couldn't agree more.
2nd, British fans.
Ooh,
British
really?
fans.
Yeah.
Silverstone. Sure, if you go to Silverstone, the only people that exist are George and Lewis and Lando, and no one else exists when you go. When you go there, I mean, I would dare say they have that sort of half love for the Australian drivers as well. That sort of love-hate relationship we have with British people. But yeah, I would say British fans. More for that historic sort of sense too. They've been part of the sport as a fan base for such a long time. So many amazing drivers has represented their nationality, so it's just in their blood, really.
And I think that camping aspect of that race, I know you can camp at different races as well, but that one in particular has got a real camping atmosphere.
Yeah.
And so it means that people are on track the whole time, which, I do like. Yep.
And Japanese fans, obviously,
Number one
in the world. Number one in the world. You see it. You saw it all across the broadcast this weekend. The way that they dress up, and they don't just dress up in like colours or party gear. They dress up in full head-to-toe race suits, helmet, boots, suits, the works. They've got their sort of work hard hats that have been converted into full
DRS flaps
that operate. You've got front wings, you've got rear wings. They've got all their homemade flags. I saw someone wearing a shirt and a dress as a couple that were there, and the pattern on the shirt and dress were all the drivers of the grid. Just really unique, out there, different stuff. And if you haven't seen the pre-show of Sky, have a look at where Damon Hill and Ted are in the actual paddock, and I talked about this when I arrived today. I actually had anxiety looking at the amount of fans that were around Damon Hill, obviously a 2-time race winner, but they were just... It was like, you know when you go fish and chips and you throw a chip on the ground and suddenly every single bird in the vicinity is just staring at you, waiting for that next chip. That's what it was like. And it was just no space was given, and he was talking and signing, and yeah. But again, they have that respect and love for the older drivers. I mean, Damon, obviously British, but a 2-time winner of their race, so they love him for that.
Run through the list again for me.
So in 5th place, yep, Brazilian, Mexican, Dutch, British, and Japanese.
No Tifosi, no Monza,
no,
really,
no.
Wow, yeah. So for my list, Canada's my 5th.
Yep.
Because I love the way that they finish a race down at the corner, and there's a real stadium atmosphere on that corner, and I think there's a really great atmosphere there. Yep. I'd have the Japanese fans 4th. But it's close. I'd have the UK. Yep. So Silverstone fans. Yep. 3rd. The Dutch, I reckon, are nearly 2nd now.
Yeah,
the way that they behave at a racetrack is outstanding. I just love the bounce and the atmosphere.
Awesome.
It's next level. I'll be interested to see when Max goes.
Yep.
If we've still got a race there.
Yep.
If they still turn out the same way.
Yep.
But yeah, for me, Monza. Number one, you got to go to the Tifosi, Monza.
The thing for me with them not making the list is that
it's very Ferrari orientated.
Yeah, I
can understand
when it's off, it's off, and they're not there.
Yep.
Like if you're a Mexican fan or a Brazilian fan or a Dutch fan or a British fan, right? If your nationality driver comes home in 5th, you are okay with that, and you're pretty happy with that.
Not the UK.
If you're a Japanese fan, you couldn't care less where anyone comes. Like
I'm with you on that one.
Yuki came 11th today or whatever. They don't care. They love Yuki. So it's all that kind of stuff. But if you're a Ferrari fan, if you don't win, then you'd be lucky to walk out there alive.
It's a good point. It's a very good point. F1.5.
F1.5. Gee, under the pump. You put me under the pump today.
I know.
Absolutely. But I'm done.
I was going to say, usually you do it when you arrive at my house anyway.
I know, but I kind of know the order before I arrive, so it's just laziness, to be honest. And it gives me something to do while we're setting up as well. All right, let's have a look at it. So 3 championships for those that are only just joining. If you're only just joining, my goodness me, you're missing out on one of the best title fights of all time. 3 championships. We've got Formula A, or Formula AlphaTauri, as I like to call it. F1.75, which consists of Sargent and the 2 Haas boys. And then F1.5, which is everyone else. So last week we had Lando taking the lead a little bit further out, stretching his legs. He's obviously won today, but it's sort of that fight behind him now. So he's doing in F1.5 what Max is doing in F1 now.
And it is too late to promote him.
Too late to promote, because we couldn't have that fight and, come 5 rounds to go and then give the title to someone else. I don't think that's fair.
It's interesting.
All right, let's have a look. We'll start at Formula A. Lawson, with a really good showing today, has now taken the lead fully in there. So 40 points for Lawson, 35 for De Vries, and 12 for Dan. So that's, if Dan comes back, which I don't think he's going to, that's a little bit to run down for Dan in terms of what that looks like.
Yeah, delicious.
So F1.75, Hulkenberg with a handful of points today, and I guess because of the DNFs of, a third of the field, really. So Hulk's on 83, K-Mag 72. K-Mag's just becoming a little bit irrelevant, isn't he?
Haas, in general?
Haas just in general are becoming
They had a nice little spurt there for a while.
Like, they were still, even with all the DNFs today, they were still pretty much last.
They were last.
Yeah, yeah. And they were probably going to be last even without DNFs. They were last in the
classifiers.
Yeah. So you could classify the whole field, they're probably last. Just, a very pointless and sort of nothingness sort of group at the moment is Haas. And Sargent on 54, so no good for Sargent. Yep. All right, let's have a look at F1.5, just in no particular order.
Don't do this to
me. I'm going to do it in no particular order.
It's useless. And then I'm going to give you information when it's
not.
Order.
And then I'm going to give you third, second, and first. So when we get to 3 to go, that's going to be third, second, and first. I'm just going to give you everyone else in jumper order. Okay?
No, it's useless.
That's what I'm going to do. It's not. All right, Piastri. 163 points.
Where does that put him?
That's what you got to think about. It doesn't sound as glamorous as what it did last week, because he was looking all right last week at 145. So now 163. But he's just finished third. You'd think, that's going to be good. Doesn't sound great.
Well, you don't know, because we can't compare to anyone else at the moment.
That's what I'm saying. Zhou on 117. Bottas 127. So 10 points between those boys. Albon 169. So still holding a 6-point lead over Piastri.
Bottas is above Zhou?
Yes, he is. Yep.
All right. And then what did you do?
Then we went to Albon on 169.
So that makes
6 points ahead of Oscar at the moment.
Right,
yep.
Okay.
Then we went Tsunoda on 119.
Yep.
So he's only 2 points ahead of Zhou.
So this would be great in order.
I know. We'll do order next week. And then in third place, we've got Ocon on 173 points. So Ocon 173, Albon 169, and Piastri 163. Whoa. So pretty tight there for third place. That's going to get real spicy. Gasly has sort of started to stretch just a little bit out in second place on 208 points.
He can't have stretched out because
he still earned points.
His teammate outscored him.
No, he got points today. He got points. He stretched his legs a little bit. He only outscored him by a couple of points. So
he didn't stretch his legs,
a little bit. It was just
he came back by 2 points.
Yeah, it was a little stretch. It was just so 208 for Gasly.
I think you're confused about what stretching is.
And then Norris on 265.
Norris has to be promoted.
So that's a big gap. Well, you can't get this far into the field, knowing where Norris started with only 5 to go.
Fair
then turn and say, well, Gasly is the title winner. Yeah, I don't think you can do that.
Fair enough.
I don't think you can do that.
Tell me if, and I know there's more, if F1.5 was starting today.
Yes.
From what we know.
Yep.
Who would be in F1.5 and who wouldn't?
So both Astons would definitely be in.
Well, my question is, would you have everyone other than Max? And Perez probably.
No. Perez would be in F1.5. If we were starting today, I would be bringing Perez in, both the Astons in. Both the McLarens would be out.
See, it's pretty close though, isn't it? It's not like it's a consistent thing. I think McLaren are consistently just a bit faster, but I'm not convinced it's everywhere.
And see, it's a little bit of a controversial one. I would probably have George in.
See, I think if you're starting F1.5 today, Max is the only one that doesn't start.
Really? Yeah.
Well, I just think it's close enough with everybody else.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Oh, there you go, F1.5.
Anyway, spicy times.
Have we? You got a fastest lap?
Yes, a little bit extra for those following, I guess, what are they? Mini championships, I guess, as such. So another fastest lap for Lando, so it takes him to 4 overall, which is looking pretty good for him. So he's got 4. Next best is Gasly with 3. So, fastest lap is hard to come by. And then if you're looking at pole position award, Norris took his 6th pole for the season. With Piastri sort of... No. Sorry. Piastri took his second pole of the season. And Norris has a handy lead of 6 poles for the season. That's what that gap's looking like there as well. So Lando leading all comers, but he's only 1 ahead in fastest laps too. So that's what the little mini championships are looking like for this season.
Have we got a problem with fantasy?
No, we don't.
I think we do. I don't think the points have been updated.
No, because it takes quite a long time to actually do.
So we're in a little bit of a...
We're in calculating phase. Talk me through your team this week, because we do need to mention fantasy. Thanks to Chris at Dr. Auto Art.
I did make some changes.
All right, talk us through your changes while we're sort of stewing. And have a look
that would require me to remember who I had.
All right.
I'll tell you who I've got now, if you like.
All right.
I've got Max and the 2 McLaren boys in Norris and Oscar. Then I've got Pierre Gasly and... Alex Albon.
Yeah,
nice. Albon, not so good.
Albon, DNF.
I believe he was going into today with 0 points.
It's minus 20
and
then
so
for you.
Now he's leaving with less points.
So where were you sitting after qualifying? How many points did you have after qualifying?
90, I think.
90. Okay, so you're back to 70.
It appears that way.
Straight away. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. And who else did you have? Sorry.
Oscar, Pierre, Norris, and Verstappen.
Okay, that's not too bad.
No, of course. Actually, I just want to bring up, someone did send through that I actually nailed my prediction at the end of last episode.
Did you?
For a Max, Norris, Piastri finish.
Very good. I said Ferrari, didn't I?
We need Beyond the Bet back, don't we?
We do, don't we? Yeah, okay, not too bad. For me, I held station with the Ferrari boys. Mm-hmm. I thought, I'll just give them another week and that come up. So I also finished on 90 post-qualifying as well.
Right.
So I had Leclerc, Sainz, I had the double points. So I've taken Max out, which I know is risky because he's a guaranteed race winner.
Wow.
But I just wanted a little bit more of an even spread across everything. So just looking to do something different.
Wow.
And I just wanted to see how the Ferraris went. Anyway, so I held on to Lando and I put double DRS on Lando, so I'm pretty happy with that. I've saved a few points there. I think I definitely do need to bring Max back in now. Looking at Ferrari have just sort of held station there.
I hope they've lost too much money. You can't do that.
They won't have. I brought Zhou in. So my trades this week, I took Fernando out. Quite happy to do that. I brought Zhou in, and I also upgraded the Ferrari Constructor into the Red Bull Constructor. So it just sort of covered all bases there, knowing I didn't have Max.
Feels like I might chase you down this week.
Maybe, but I haven't lost any points, and you're already 20 behind me if you've had a DNF and I haven't had a DNF.
Yes, a couple of second and a third.
Yeah.
And made life happy for myself.
Yeah, and I've got second, third, fourth, and sixth. And Zhou made 7 places.
First, second, third.
And I've got the Red Bull Constructor and the McLaren Constructor.
Me too.
Yeah. No, we'll see how we go anyway.
It'll be interesting.
Anyway, but thanks to Chris at Dr. Auto Art for all your fantastic work. Your prints, we had a look at your prints last week. They look magic.
I can't wait to get them up.
Absolutely magic. And did you see his science one as well that he put up this week? So good. Yep. I really love the clean background. I really do on the science one. The science one that he did this week is almost probably the best one that I've seen for the whole year.
It is stunning.
It is beautiful. So if you're unsure who we're talking about, get over to Chris at Dr. Auto Art, Facebook, Instagram, Redbubble, all your motorsport art and collectible needs. And thanks to Chris.
Really quick too. I must say really quick.
I
placed the order and it was here much faster than I expected for being on the other side of the country.
Well, top 3 will be taking those home. So if we have a quick look, I know it is qualifying mode, but if we have a look right now post-qualifying, first place, It Protects My Head, 4,587. Still only 1 point ahead. Tails I Win, 4,586. Team Q, 4,573 in third place. Ricky Bobby Racing School, 4,557. And in fifth place, WW Jolien PD on 4,537. So, it's close, isn't it? It's really, really close. Just a DNF or a bad weekend for 2 of your drivers. And you're in all sorts.
6 races to go.
6 to go.
Yep. So plenty of time to make that change, isn't it?
I'm only 20 points out of the top 10 now. So after my sort of save-based weekend last week, so I'm looking to make my way back into the top 10. I reckon I could be 10th after this weekend.
Any news that you want to discuss?
Any news? Yeah, I do actually. Just one thing. Only one thing that's caught my eye. That's all that caught my eye. A race team. Now, remember Rich Energy? Remember Rich Energy?
Oh, we've spent lots of time talking about Rich Energy.
Now, we do spend, and a lot of people talk about Rich Energy a lot. We were lucky enough, how many years ago was it now? 3 years ago?
Oh,
4?
no, more than that,
I reckon it was like our second time out. So we actually met... His name escapes me, and I just saw
Richard... God, yeah.
I don't know. Google it while we're talking.
Yeah, rightio.
Yeah, so we were actually fortunate enough to meet the actual founder of Rich Energy, whose name is...
Yeah, working on it. Richard Richardson.
It's not Richard.
Richard Story.
Story, that's it. Richard Story. So we were lucky enough to meet him because it was I think it was our second year there. So I wanted up and said, "Hey, would you have 5 minutes with us? We do a podcast. Would you love to sit down and talk to us?" And we have
William Story.
William Story. We have that record. Do we still have that recording somewhere?
It'd be somewhere, I think.
I reckon we could. I reckon we should throw it up for Rich Energy fans in the next couple of weeks, or before the year's out. I think we should throw it up. So we met him. He was actually lovely and really nice to talk to. But a lot of people question whether Rich Energy drink actually exists. It does. Like, we had one. It actually wasn't too bad.
It was fine.
It was fine. And then he answered a couple of questions for us for 5 minutes and then went on his way. So there is a team, Nielsen Racing Team, which is a WEC LMP2 race team, who Rich Energy have come out on Twitter in the last 24 hours with a photo of their LMP2 car with a Rich Energy livery that says, "Watch this space." And then the official response from Nielsen Racing Team was, "We know nothing about this."
I thought we agreed we weren't going to bring Rich Energy up again.
I love them. They're the evil of F1 that we all need in our lives. So, yeah, I'm really interested to see, because obviously William Story is keen to get back into motorsport. There was a lot of teaser at the start of the year too as to whether or not they were going to be back. Last season. And then here they are again throwing their livery on a car with the actual official team saying, no, we know absolutely nothing about this. So that's one bit of news. I do have a second bit of news.
Go on.
So over the past 24 hours, 4 teams have lobbied, I guess, for a better word, to actually be part of the Formula One grid in the last couple of years. So 4 teams have actually been part of this process.
Yeah, 4 teams are applying for a license.
Yep. So 3 of those teams have been knocked back, leaving Andretti the only remaining team with an actual opportunity to enter Formula One.
Now, this is going through FIA. So where they're at now is the FIA has done this narrowing down, and it's believed that those 3 teams are open to a later date entry, and that might be where they come into things.
Yep.
But yeah, at the moment, it's been determined that Andretti Racing is the only team that is ready to go in the near future. So the grid can take, or they've said that the maximum would be 12 teams. They're looking to bring in the 11th team. So once the FIA say, yep, that's all right, ready to go, and it's looking very much likely that they are ready to do that, they just want to shore up some things with F1 at the moment. So they want F1 to be on board before they present it to the teams. And that's where there's a little bit... That's why the huge delays happening.
Yeah.
Because it was all supposed to be decided by now. But the huge delays happening because the FIA are on board, but they're just trying to get F1 to approve it too, so then they can present it to the teams and sort of say, look, this is where we're at. Zach Brown's all for it, isn't he?
He is all for it, which I like that. So I think for all the noise around it, they are absolutely going to get up, and we are going to have Andretti in the sport.
Yeah, it feels that way. And I mean, their original timing was 2025, which makes it not next season, the season after.
Yeah, which is your new regs as well.
Yeah, 2026 with some of it, but yeah, so it'll be interesting to see what year they manage to make it happen. Yep. But I like Zach Brown's comments around, look, we've got 12 positions. As soon as it's all sold out, in actual fact, all the teams become more worth more money because you can't actually get any more.
Yep.
And so all of a sudden there's a full grid. To get into Formula One, you've actually got to buy them, so all of a sudden we're worth more. And so, I didn't mind it.
One of the other teams that I did a little bit of digging around and found some news on this week. So we know that High Tech, which is an F2 team, they were going to be potentially putting a bid in. I don't know the third team, but the fourth team has actually come out to be a team called Lucky Sons. spelled LKYSUNZ.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and this will shock you, but the name is a combination of the word lucky and sun.
Oh.
Shocking.
Yeah, right. Where are they from?
So they're from Asia. They're from Japan. They are a racing team in Asia. So there is rumoured that they had the €600 million ready to go, which is the overs payment that you need to get into the sport.
Currently it's 200.
Yeah, so they had over.
But the idea is that they wanted to meet what they were expecting it to go to.
Yeah. So what it said is that it intends to have a state-of-the-art zero green power factory completed, but whether or not that's going to get legs or not. So I'm still doing a little bit of research around Lucky Suns and who they are, but that was the alleged team that got knocked back. But yes, they had the overs for what they needed, which was $600 million ready to go. So, yeah, obviously the infrastructure wasn't there for them. But I think you could all but say Andretti will be part of the field in 2026. Yeah, you could almost say that's 100%.
I think there's I don't know. I think there's still a little bit to go under the bridge, but with the FIA backing it, and Andretti being as strong as they are, and enough teams can get on board, I think it's looking positive for another team. And I'm for it. Are you for it?
I am absolutely. Yeah, if you'd look in, just type in.
Would you take a 12th team?
Yeah, absolutely. Yep, Lucky Suns, LKYSUNZ.com if you want to know more about them. Right. There's a 2-minute clip, and you can get in contact with them actually. Team@luckysuns.com. Maybe we should send them an email and say, hey, we'd love to know a little bit about your bid.
Might be a little bit private, I imagine, at this stage.
We'll see how we
go. I believe that the teams that have been knocked back haven't been permanently knocked back. It's just like, not for now. We don't want to bring in 2 teams straight away. We want to bring in 1, get that up and running, and bring in another one after that. And so, looking sort of like a long game for some of those teams.
Their little caption on their website is Lucky Suns, the F1 disruptor, bidding to compete in the FIA Formula One World Championship. Interesting.
It is. Next race is we're going to Qatar. We got a weekend off, and then we're off to Qatar. 4 a.m. start. That's a trickier one, a 4 a.m. start. That's slightly earlier than what I'd rather be up. But anyway,
I'll be up.
It'll be the way it'll be. Do you like the Qatar
Qatari Grand
track?
Prix? Yes, I do, actually. Yeah, I do.
Under lights, is this one under lights?
Yes, in LaSalle.
Yeah.
Yep, night race, very much like it. Very, very. It's different. I love a night race. Yeah. Love the circuit at LaSalle. Very, very good.
Excellent. Got a prediction for me?
A Max win?
Oh, that's good.
No, high speed. I'll be interested to see how Ferrari go here. Because this high speed, very, very similar. You get a good representation of this circuit based on somewhere like Monza too. So again, I'll be holding station with Ferrari.
There's a few slower corners over here.
1 or 2 I don't think will hamper them. I think Monza will be a pretty fair reflection. And a bit of a form guide looking at Qatar. So, I expect Ferrari to maybe just outdo McLaren at the moment.
Okay. Yep. All right. No, I'll back in McLaren.
All right. I think. Yeah, I'm going to back in Ferrari. I have a good feeling about the boys in red at the moment.
Excellent. Cool. All right. Well, very good. That's a shorter episode. And Fan Frenzy, what are we going to do there?
Fan Frenzy, I think we'll have a Fan Frenzy. We'll definitely get our feed up for fans because we love their interactions. So, we'll put it up and look at worst. If we don't get an episode up this week, we'll definitely reply to your comments on the socials, but we'll still put it up and then...
Keep your eyes peeled.
Keep your eye peeled. You'll get a response from us in one way or the other.
I wonder if there's a way we can do live this week. We've promised it for a long time.
We have, and we do need to do it, don't we?
We'll put our heads together and see where we go. But yes, certainly respond, and we'll get into that at a later date. But yeah, what a strange way to watch Formula One during the daytime.
Tea time now.
How wonderful. What a world we live in. Goodbye now.